Divine Constitution of Moorish America. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7, in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Hold on, let me let these people in real quick. All meetings should be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7, in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but obey hereby. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted into 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America, because Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Islam. Before Salim gets into chapter 4, I'm going to say Islam to Yamila El, Islam to, who else came up in here? That's it, somebody else? Okay. Al-Nur Islam. Tula Islam.
Islam Morris.
Islam.
Islam to the nobles.
Islam, Morris.
You got it, brother Salim.
Islam. Honors to all the nobles.
Wow.
Circle 7, Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the Prophet, Noble Jew Ali, by the guidance of his Father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his Father God Allah. I'm going to read chapter 4, Death and Burial of Elizabeth Mathinos Lessons, the Ministry of Death. And let me just add, I read 2 through 8 at my grandfather's like little funeral eulogy thing, man. They never heard this before, so they really liked it. They really appreciated this new science. Islam.
Yeah, I just did it for my cousins this past couple weeks.
So yeah,
You
Islam.
know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
Noble Islam.
I
That
feel you. Islam.
this is a new sauce for them. Like they are Christians and biblical, whatever. But this was something special. Like they appreciated
For
this.
real,
Islam, man.
show did, show
You
did.
know what I'm talking about.
Thanks. Yeah, I
Blessings.
know it. I know it. Hey, condolences and love are supreme. Islam.
Islam. When John was 12 years old, his mother died, and neighbors laid her body in a tomb among her kindred in the Hebron burying ground and near to Zechariah's tomb. And John was deeply grieved. He wept. Matheno said, "It is not well to weep because of death. Death is no enemy of man. It is a friend who, when the work of life is done, just cuts the cord that binds the human boat to earth that it may sail on smoother seas. No language can describe a mother's worth, and yours was tried and true. But she was not called hence until her tasks were done. The cause of death are always for the best, for we are solving problems there as well as here, and one is sure to find himself where he can solve his problems best. It is selfishness that makes one wish to call again to earth's departed souls. Then let your mother rest in peace. It's wrong. It's wrong.
Wow.
Just let her noble life be strength and inspiration unto you. A crisis in your life has come. You must have a clear conception of the work that you are called to do. The sages of the ages call you harbinger. Excuse me. The prophets look to you and say, "He is Elijah. Come again." Your mission here is that of a harbinger, for you will go before the Messiah's face to pave his way and make the people ready to receive their king. This readiness is purity of heart. None but the pure in heart can recognize the king. To teach men to be pure in heart, you must yourself be pure in heart and word and deed. In infancy, the vow for you was made, and you became a Nazarite. The razor shall not touch your face nor your head, and you shall not taste wine nor fiery drinks. Men need a pattern for their lives. They love to follow, not to lead. The man who stands upon the corners of the paths and points the way, but does not go, he is just a pointer, and a block of wood can do the same. The teacher treads the way. On every span of ground beheaves, pardon himself, on every span of ground he leaves his footprints, clearly cut, which all can see and be assured that he, their master, went that way. Men comprehend the inner life by what they see and do. They come to Allah through ceremonies and forms. And so when they would make men know that sins are washed away by purity in life, a right symbolic may be introduced. And water washed the bodies of people who would turn away from sin and strive for purity in life. This rite of cleansing is a preparation rite, and they who thus are cleansed compromise the temple of purity. And you shall say, "You men of Israel, hear, reform and wash, become the sons of purity, and you shall be forgiven." This rite of cleansing and this temple are but symbolic of the soul, which does not come with outward show, but is the temple within. Now, you may never point the way and tell the multitudes to do what they have never done, but you must go before and show the way. You are to teach that men must wash. So you must lead the way. Your body must be washed, symbolic of the cleansing of the soul. John said, "Why need I wait? May I not go at once and wash?" Matheno said, "'Tis well." And they went down to Jordan Ford in east of Jericho, just where the host of Israel crossed when they first entered Canaan. They tarried for a time. Matheno taught the harbinger, and he explained to him the inner meaning of the cleansing rite and how to wash himself and how to wash the multitude. And in the river Jordan, John was washed. Then they returned into the wilderness. Now in Getty's Hills, Matheno's work was done, and he and John went down to Egypt. They rested until they reached the temple of Saqqara in the valley of the Nile. For many years, Matheno was a master in this temple of the brotherhood. And when he told about the life of John and of his mission to the sons of men, the Hierophant with joy received the harbinger, and he was called the brother Nazarite. For 18 years, John lived and wrought within these temple gates, and here he conquered self, became a mastermind, and learned the duties of the harbinger. Islam, I yield the floor.
Islam. That's
Islam.
fire. That chapter fire, man. Could you repeat?
Fire.
That's one of my favorites, man.
Can you repeat the title of that? That chapter for everybody?
That is the death and burial of Elizabeth. Matheno's lessons, the ministry of death. Islam.
Ministry of Death.
Now you see what I'm saying about That's what I do. I teach people how to be pure hearted. Now, pure heart might look the same as a person that's, that's not pure hearted. But that's why I always talk about intentions, because that's what make you pure hearted. It's like, what's your intentions of behind what are you doing? And what are you saying? What's the intention behind it? You see what I'm saying? So I focus on love. I know my heart is pure. You feel me? I know that for a fact. That's why I'm not eager to judge people, but I see things that other people don't, they may not see. I might see it early, but you got to have a pure heart, because that's how you tap into information that's not seen.
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Now, what do you think the next chapter of esoteric astrology is on today? Astrological meaning of death. Ain't that correspondence?
Islamism.
Come on, man. Come on, man. This correspondence. This divine right here.
Divine timing.
Divine timing. Right? Chapter 5, astrological meaning of death. Astrology solves one of the greatest mysteries of life. Death has always remained a hidden chapter in the book of human evolution. This subject has been so dreadful that people have even called death the king of terrors. On the other hand, there are many occultists who have time and time again emphasized that death is just like sleep, and each individual dies several times, even during the course of one incarnation. The ancient Indian or Hindu philosophy, of which astrology is an integral part, gives a very comprehensive scheme of human evaluation, which solves many of the riddles baffling the modern and the so-called scientific mind. An understanding of the problem of death, which was investigated in great detail by our ancient sages, will not only enable us to have a balanced view on the various problems of everyday existence, it will also aid sensible predictions relating to the future of man. There are various types of death, apart from the fact that experience of some intense pain completely disintegrates the emotional life of the individual, and he begins to reorganize his life on a new pattern. There are other aspects of death which astrology takes into cognizance. For example, there may be an infant mortality where the incarnating ego, before having entered the vast arena of life, recoils and begins living its supra physical realms. So just so we're on the same page about supra, we got supra etymology, is an adjective. We're dealing with that which transcends the physical realm, just so we're on the same page. All right. The supra physical realms. There may, on the other hand, be the death of a person who, having lived a full life, dies after suffering for a long duration and ultimately breathes his last in the lap of his near and dear ones. Like the sudden death of Siri Balantre, and that's just a Hindu politician, one didn't know. And even down here it says chief minister of an Indian state. One may be shot by the enemy while in the prime of one's life, when the flowers of life are just blossoming, and thus the ego may leave the physical coil. Everyone is aware of many circumstances in which the physical death takes place. We do not wish to discuss here the occult significance of the various types of death and how they aid evolution of the ego and its realization of divine essence of life. But what we intend to do here is to suggest in brief the relationship of the natal chart and the various aspects of death. In Hindu philosophy, death has been considered as an event of life. It is like the birth, marriage, livelihood, pilgrimage, children, and the like. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and I'm pretty sure we need to go into that because most people don't know what that is. So let's just go into that. So it's a literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled in books. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is a successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Now, there's multiple books dealing with this, and they're designed to go in stages. So these are all Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's kind of like to me, it reminds me of Moore's Paradigm, Volume 1, Volume 2. That's where my mind went, even though it's a tad bit different. But we're dealing with the first book dealing with creation, the second book dealing with cosmic manifestation, second book dealing with status quo, fourth book dealing with the creation of the fourth order, et cetera, right? Duties of man. It's a whole collection of these books: the science of God, the withdrawal of the cosmic creations, liberation, et cetera, right? So this is when you start tapping into our people of the Hindu religion, you'll see it ties into the Quran as well. So just wanted to go into that. So now we know what the Srimad Bhagavad Gita clearly distinguishes between life and death. The former is the internal aspect of existence, the primordial essence, or the ancient essence, right? We heard about the primordial waters in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, right? So it just means ancient, the original essence, right? The permanent link between the ultimate and the transient. Neither can any weapon slay it, nor can fire burn it. Death, according to Lord Krishna, is just a chapter in the eternal drama of life, and the wise do not grieve over it, right? Though it must be noted that astrology assigns to death no more significance than any other aspect of existence. It is not insignificant that the considerable importance attached to death by mortals has been watered down in astrology. An astrologer never grieves over death. He considers it merely as an act of divine dispensation. There are two aspects of life: one that is eternal, permanent, and continuing during the soul's pilgrimage through diverse experiences, and second, that which differentiates between one life and another in a series of reincarnations. The latter is death. But what is the purpose of incarnations? The incarnating soul has to learn many lessons in life, and it has to work out the load of karma gathered during several incarnations. There is every possibility that the individual may be given several fundamental lessons to learn in one life. In that case, though there may not be snapping of the cord connecting the transient part of the individual with his eternal counterpart, each time a new lesson is given to him, but his life may be rent asunder, and he may feel as if he has to begin life afresh each time. Should we not consider all these as different kinds of death the individual has to face? The cause and the circumstance of each death need not to be identical. So we're talking about cords. That's back to the Quran, all things bound by cords, right? And we think of death and rebirth, a death of old behavior, birth of a new behavior, right? There's a bunch of examples of death and rebirth. Reverend C.W. Lee Beater, in his book On the Other Side of Death, has given various instances of the fact that the dying ego does not sever all its relationships with the physical world. It has to continue its onward journey, but the arena of its activities, to a considerable extent, remains in this physical world of ours. Jeffrey Hudson, in his book, The Miracle of Birth, has recorded how the angelic host takes special care during the birth of a child, so that the miraculous phenomenon of the birth of the human body takes place in consonance with the universal force of cosmic evolution, the karmic forces generated by the reincarnated ego and the special needs for its growth. Astrological charts picturing a stellar constellation, in fact, reflect this unique decision of the ultimate, which is built in the soul of reincarnated ego. Birth, as well as death, are the playgrounds of great many occult forces. Recently, Dr. Casey attempted to show that every event of life is connected with the historical past of the individual, stretching over his many lives. Edgar Casey was a practicing medical practitioner, but his clairvoyant conclusions have been extremely fascinating from the occult standpoint. He has been able to establish connections with certain diseases, as well as pleasant and unpleasant events of life with the past submissions and commissions of the individual. Even the modern researchers of the West have been suggesting that the great laws of nature of action and eternity, or of karma and reincarnation, are facts of life, which must be taken into account while evaluating the course of human life. It is said that there is not much difference between the conditions of sleep and death. At the time of death, the umbilical cord connecting the physical and the astral bodies is snapped, whereas during sleep, the two remain linked. Other experiences of the soul during sleep are very much the same, or at least similar. An important feature of sleep as well as death is that the two represent something intangible. We cannot cognize either, nonetheless, they exist, which cannot be denied by anyone. It is because of this hidden aspect of death that the 8th house of the natal chart, representing concealed aspects of one's life, is considered for predicting death. Right, that's the house of Scorpio. But there are several other houses which are also very meaningful for knowing the supernal physical life of the ego. For example, everyone knows that the 1st, 2nd, 7th, and 12th house also have much influence on this aspect of the individual. But why are all these houses representing the very life force, the essence of personality, wealth, speech, and the light of the eye, Kalatra, wasteful deeds in the realm of superphysical entities connected with death are taken into account if death means end for all? And that's why I brought up the example. Death is not necessarily the end of life necessarily. It's something to learn from, and then you blossom, right? The caterpillar is no more, but the butterfly is on the scene now. Classic example. Astrologically speaking, death is very meaningful. The general strength of the chart is assessed in relation to the 1st house. Even longevity, the general status of the individual, his potentialities, his elan vital. And let me, every time I hear some, let's look up what elan vital means. So elan vital is the vital force or impulse of life. So we're on the same page. We're hearing these terms that are not common terms. The elan vital and everything connected with life force are examined firstly in relation to the 1st house. One must not forget that the 1st house is 5th from the 9th, which implies that the life of the individual is the result, progeny, offspring of his own punya, So let's look at punya. Punya is referred to as good karma, or a virtue that contributes benefit in this and the next birth and can be acquired by appropriate means, also accumulated. Go to another Buddhist definition of punya. In Sanskrit, punya just means merit. And I don't know if we all know, but merit is, something of fact, right? Let's go back to the reading of his own punya. The past, i.e. astrology, begins by assuming that the present life of the individual is always in the womb of his past. The quantum of prana, which is the force which the man lives and moves on this earth, is proportioned at the time of his birth as a result of his past deeds. In this way, the 1st house becomes meaningful. If the life force itself has been very limited, no matter how much other houses are fortified or strengthened, the life of the individual will not be very long. The 7th house is very intimately connected with the question of death. This house is also considered as the house of marital happiness. One must appreciate the fact that Hindu philosophy considers life as emerging from 2 polarities, right? Hermetic principles, 2 polarities, Purusha and Parakrita, or Parakriti. the positive and the negative forces of manifestation, right? Purusha, positive, Parakriti, negative forces of manifestation. If the first house represents Purusha, or the element of creation, the seventh stands for Parakriti element. And we know why we're saying first and seventh, because those are opposites, 180-degree opposites, right? Aries and Libra. In the marital phenomenon, this cosmic principle comes into play. Man expresses himself through his wife. Lord Shiva, for manifesting his creative potentialities, requires Parvati, the world mother. At the same time, the quantum of life force provided initially to the individual at the time of his birth, as per the seventh house activities, gets dissipated. When all the energy with which he was born has completed its creative functions, the person's physical life ebbs out and he passes to the next realm of manifestation, the higher planes of creation. So after death, we got higher planes of creation. The eighth house represents the region where the soul proceeds after death, the plane of non-physical existence. This house can be viewed as the first house for considering the soul's journey in the astral world, which means the nature of death and experiences therein. The 12th house is the fifth one from the eighth house. Occult investigations indicate the soul's attainment during the two intervening births do not only depend upon the quantity and intensity of the life lived on the physical plane, but also on the experiences of the astral world. The soul is very active on the astral plane. We are told that the invisible helpers meet us at the threshold of death. Many mysterious ceremonies take place in that region. As a result of all these, the spiritual height attained by the ego is determined. The second house is also considered as Maraka, or the death-inflicting house. But the fact that inheritance and wealth of the person are also indicated by this house, and that's dealing with Taurus, indicated by this house, gives us the clue to the mystery. So when we're dealing with death, when somebody dies, typically inheritance gets passed down to the beneficiary. Right? So that's the death inheritance. That's what his author is trying to allude to. We get much money because during our past incarnations, we have done charitable deeds, and the person is still attached to his physical possessions. The second is one of the Maya, or illusion houses. For the liberation of the soul, it is necessary to break the bond of illusion. Life of the individual, dealing with the first house, dangling between material possessions, dealing with the second house, and the spiritual forces like initiations, mysterious alliances with occult schools, etc., dealing with the 12th house, decide the course of the ascendant. For this reason, the second and the 12th house become important for deciding the duration of the incarnating ego in this world. Here, we have not considered many important aspects of death, which could be suitably discussed in the present context, but we have limited ourselves to only a few aspects of the problem. We have attempted here to indicate that death is not an end for the soul. It is merely an event like any other event of life. Death results from the ebbing out of the quantum of life force providing at the time of birth, represented by the first house. After death, a new physical existence of the individual begins, which is indicated by the 8th house. During the intervening period between two reincarnations, much creative occult activities take place, dealing with the 12th house. The longevity of the person and his death depends upon the balance between his material attachments, Maya, the 2nd house, and his occult attainments, dealing with the 12th house. Oh, we ran through that pretty fast. I thought that was long. So yeah, I find it fitting because I was going to actually queue up the chapter of death in the Holy Quran, but I was like, you know what, I'll just reference it. But the brother just read it. I didn't even really consciously know he was going to read that. So this was all divine. Um, anything that popped out intuitively when I was reading this? Did anybody's spider senses go off? Anybody resonate with this any way? Please let the thoughts be on the floor. And Islam, Brandon Bay, peace and love. Who else came up in here? I think that was everybody. I think I said everybody. Yes, Brandon Bay, Islam, peace and love. I'd like to open the floor for some thoughts.
Islam brothers, Islam sisters,
Islam noble.
Islam.
Yep. Benjamin Bay, yep. Eighth house pertaining to death, right? On point. Benjamin Bay says Scorpio is on the rise, which Mars rules, and Mars is in the house of death right now in Gemini. Sidereal speaking, all in alignment. Yep, Islam. Islam. Anybody else had any thoughts on the Quran or
I
esoteric?
was like that. I was like, maybe with the Scorpio rising could spark the brother reading that out of the Quran. So that could have been the divineness in it. Like that could have sparked, or maybe both of you with that on the rise, like, you know, so Islam to that. He kind of sparked it for you. So I was like, all right, cool. But Islam to that, I'll just say that.
Islam.
Allah God's just
Islam. No, that's beautiful. I got happy
Yeah,
too. Yeah, go ahead, Jerry Bay.
Oh no, I just like how I said how the ego grow, you know what I mean? And which is true. Like even like I say, you know, love, that's why they say it's the thin line between love and hate. That's an example of that, simple ways of saying it. It's like the more you try to reach the best self, the more it's like I don't know, an opposite pull of you growing in the evil too. Because you know, once you tap into the ego, you be so upset of all the effort you gave. You know what I mean? So it's like the energy end up balancing out, you know. So that was crazy that it said that, you know, and then the eighth house and death and stuff, I look at that like, you know, not killing off the old self, but just creating new habits. You know what I mean? Like some people say, yo, kill off the bad stuff and this and that. Like we don't have to use words like that. We can be more positive and just say, you know what, let's create some new habits.
Mhm.
That's the time we in right now, bro. It's time for creation. You know what I mean? I mean, like you said, the house is in, what'd you say? The eighth house is in death, right? Brother Benjamin?
Mhm.
oh yeah, oh Mars was in the eighth house of death, and he was reading the meaning of death, so it's all around, you know, the death, but we're reading about the metaphysical meaning of it. So someone that just ear hustler be like, oh, they're speaking about death, but it's like, you know, a higher degree of it. But I you.
Facts, Islam.
Yeah, man. This was fire, man.
I was just gonna say, you know, it brings up the Maya, you know, and like you guys said, we're entering a new time, new era. A lot of the European scholars misinterpreted what it was that, you know, the Mayan Mexica calendar was portraying. Like they said that in 2012 through now was the time of, you know, the world was gonna end. It never implied that the world was gonna end. It's the end of an era. You know, it just starts over again. It's
It's end of
recycle.
end of an age as well. Because the age of
Exactly.
Pisces is the
End of an
2000.
age. And like you said, to be reborn in another age, this the previous age has to come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Islam.
Islam. That's beautiful, man. The death of an age.
Yeah. The age of the age of the Moors, rise of the Moors.
Yeah, man. AKA.
Islam. In the 80s, it was a group called the Fifth Dimension, and they did this song, Age of Aquarius. Like it's like let the sun shine in, like let the sun shine in, as in like they name was based on at this time right now, like they was singing about in this era that we in right now, knowing that this was the age of enlightenment. You know what I'm saying? This age of Aquarius. So they knew that this was a special time, and they called their group that, and they did that song. And they, you know, their songs everywhere, man. But I just want to add that, man. Yeah, this that time, this that new age. It's like the death of the world, it's the death of the age. It's a new beginning, you know.
Yes,
Brand new.
Yeah, man. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Islam. I was trying to find my circle 7, but I couldn't find it. But I believe it's chapter 3, which speaks on the higher self and the lower self. So I think that demonstration, when it's speaking about the ego, I think that's correlated to. I think the ego would translate as the lower self in the Quran, Islam, because it's basically when it talks about studying self and mastering self, you mastering your ego, and I think the ultimate goal is what it's saying. In a way, is you training your ego, but it's like your higher self is training your ego, because according to chapter 3, you know, you're ransomed from the perils of the lower self. So I would imagine being ransomed from the perils of the lower self, you would have to have control over the ego with the higher self. It also says that you truly are the higher self, and that the lower self is an illusion, it will pass away. So it just sounds like something that's attached to us in this third eye matrix, Islam.
Wow.
Islam.
As to say,
Islam.
also us being in the Thor mythology, they would call Earth Midgard. So you would look at it like Islam, we right in the middle with higher self, lower self, or higher vibrations and lower vibrations. And so what you were just reading was, oh, the higher you go up, it was basically saying the ego is different, and it's not completely gone, but it's not as easy to get upset, so to say. Islam. I see a lot in what in correlating to the Quran and Islam. I get.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Like even if you look up the etymology of ego, it feels and it thinks, you know, and a couple of teachers that I listened to, you know, and I tried to do my research on myself as well. It's kind of like the ego kind of like rams between both the ego and the lower self, you know. So it's very important to gain control of that ego, because you know what I mean, it can become a bad thing for both. And then now the higher self is depleted because the ego is a higher energy than both. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure, yeah, you got to conquer that ego, bro. And once you do that, now you can concentrate on lower self and higher self, because you can't get rid of the ego. You know what I mean? Like it's there. You can use it for protection, or you can use it just like the prophet said. Are you here to devour people? Or are you here to uplift? You know what I mean? So it's like that's what that ego stuff is about, bro. You know, so if you think and you feel, let's look up the etymology real quick. It says metaphysics, right? The self, that which feels, acts, or thinks. So no matter what self that you're in, you're gonna have those things, right? So it's like that's why I always talk about intentions, because you know the ego breeds intentions. You know, you start being premeditated of the good things you do, instead of just going out there and doing good things based on I say reaction reflexes, more than premeditated good things. Like you just go out there and do good. You don't have to plan to do good shit. You just go do it. You just go be yourself, and that's how you master it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But Islam, how you?
Islam.
Wow.
Islam, and the camel back on the brother. it makes me think about the Kaiser symbol, Islam, which is actually the derivative from ancient Tamore, Kemet, Egypt, right? With the two kundalini or the two snakes going up the staff in the middle. It's like the brother was saying, you the staff in the middle, and those are the two energies, right? Higher and lower self, right? And so it would, by that description, what the ego would be the staff, right? So,
Islam.
Wow. It's interesting because my mom was telling me about this the other night, talking about the ego. It's a fine line between ego and confidence. I mean, letting your ego get overboard and then just being, being confident versus being having too much ego.
Hey, I'm happy you said that, Noble, because that's how you get the definition of humble, when you able to master that. Now, I know where I can take it because my ego tell me, right? I know what it can be if I be this way and that way, but I choose to be myself, and I choose to hold certain things sacred, my morals. So it's like, now I see what the universe does for me, and because I didn't force it. Like, I didn't want to be known. I didn't want to be this and that. I didn't plan that. All I did was be myself, and opportunities came. You know what I mean?
Islam.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Because the ego is not bad. Because you need ego to I think Mataza Mali gave an example about like Michael Jackson being on stage and performing in front of all this crowd, or any person that they need some type of ego to put out there.
Yeah, the ego, that's that protection. Noble, you know how you like somebody can be bullying you, and your ego is telling you, hey man, don't let them do that to you.
Right.
Hey man, you better stand up for yourself. That's the ego. You feel me? But that's the thin line. I think it's your intuition and your ego is what you got to learn how to manage to be a master. That's the main shit. That's why when you focus on love, you get hurt a lot. You know what I'm saying? But you're a man, so it's like, how do a man supposed to act when he's emotionally attacked? You feel me? And those are the lessons that we need to learn, because that's what people is dealing with in this world, bro. And that's why people snapping and doing what they're doing, because it's based on how they feeling. You know what I mean? The predicament that they're in mentally. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's not just because they're black or think they are or think they Christian. Because good people, the universe gonna take care of you. Because we all know it's different levels, and that divine level is no words involved. It's about you a good man, your heart is pure, and good shit gonna happen. But guess what? You're gonna get some lessons faster than anybody else. You're not past them, you're not above them, you're not ahead of them, but in your journey, you know what I mean, you're in a different place than most people. You know what I mean? And you've been to the other places everybody was at. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like, that's not better than nobody else, but I'm just saying that now you know what you're supposed to do to be around people, to give them those things, because that is untaught.
Yeah, like the definition is that the ego is that feels, acts, and thinks. And sometimes you got to make them healthy boundaries. Not that you think you're above a person, but just to protect your energy. Or when you are in a predicament, you just you flow with it.
Wow.
Islam. If I may, I have this friend, he's an older cat. He's from Guyana, and the brother he's a Buddhist, and we're always talking about that. Like, he gives me insight, and he was telling me about pretty much, like what y'all are talking about, that we gotta, in order to be a Zen master, we can't be too boastful, but we can't be pushover. So it's like the true master of Zen is balanced. between the two and can, you know, determine for himself when to use his higher and his lower self, using his lower self as a tool to serve his higher self. Because, you know, there's always going to be adversaries. And you can't, for instance, his biggest thing with me, he would always tell me, he's like, look, according to the laws of, you know, the Most High, he's like, it says thou shalt not kill. But when I talk to certain Christians and I tell them, but in common sense tells me, if these people are coming to my house to murder me and my family, common sense says, if I murder them before they, you know, are able to murder my whole family, it's the common sense of the greater good
Self,
and
self-preservation.
self-preservation.
Mhm. Wow.
I
Islam.
think even become, you know, being a victim, also understanding why you became a victim, why you got murdered. Well, obviously you'd be dead already, but maybe in the process, you know, it's all about the push and pull, you know. Sometimes you might have summoned that to yourself, whether you were aware of it or not. And just, you know, it is what it is. We all gotta expire sometime.
Yeah, I say mentally, I always separate things, man. You when you think you're a master and shit, bro, you just be thinking you doing some things, but you ain't really doing nothing. So my mind, I say, look, okay, this world is mental, physical, and emotional, bro. Right? So I feel like whatever I'm doing on those three things, that's what comes back to you in those ways. Now it can come back to you in a different way. But like I say, if you do something, you feel this way, you think this way, and you do these things, now you got three different things coming to you. That's why you have to be lined up. That's what they get the chakra stuff from. You know what I mean? You got to be lined up. Everything has to be aligned, bro. If not, you got some lessons to learn in those three different ways or wherever you messed up at. But when it comes to lower self, like you're right, you have to utilize lower self. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna play with the lower self though. I know what he's there for, and he's here to devour. So if I tap into my lower self, I'm gonna devour you. That is where I'm at with it. I'm not finna, I'm not gonna play with it because you know what? Tapping into your lower self is no levels on it, far as in which one was worse and which one was bad and this one was worse than that one. Nah, you tapped into your lower self and you just as guilty as any other man that did it. So if you're gonna tap into it, you might as well just, you know what I mean? But sometimes justice is mixed up with that, you know what I mean? So it just depends on your intentions. You know what I mean? Like that's what make things right with Allah. Fuck what everybody else think.
Right.
Islam. I just wanted to tap in. Let me read this Maya and the Ego on how to recognize the lower self. You know what I'm saying? So now with a better understanding to the status of a Muslim, let us go further into Adam and Eve to see exactly how the Negro was made into a reverse Muslim, taught how to hate himself, and being the only national orphan on the planet. The messenger Drew Ali instructs the Moors to always love instead of hate, and that he who has been an enemy cannot be a friend. Moors Quran 41 and 12. Therefore, we are not to hate our enemies, but to insist on us having the full knowledge of all enemies. The hatred towards any enemy also absorbs the characteristics of that especial enemy. It is in the nature of the mind to become what it thinks. Therefore, one actually becomes the object of their hatred. This is why conscious men know all degrees of hate are only a self-defeatist attitude. Our foremost enemy is none other than the lower self, the devil itself. It is sometimes called the lower self. The powers of the lower self alone are the cause of the fall of man. It is portrayed as the infamous serpent of the garden planet in East Africa in the history of Adam and Eve. The opening scene of the snake unfolds with an already high in the tree human knowledge located in the very center of the soul garden of man. The place in the heart where the serpent is located is in itself a revelation as to how it became man's magnanimous foe. Yes, the devil is a part of man, but not his essence. It must be emphasized the Elohim made the devil by the commands of Allah. Therefore, the devil, like death, is benevolent from the will of Allah. Yet, it is man who left his higher self in requisite of what his lower self had to offer. But Drew Ali clearly states evil is not requisite to man. He does not have to have it accepted or created, because evil is not a true part of him. Unlike rain or trees, Allah did not make evil. Evil is not a force. It is only a power created by man to be used against other man. Once it has done its work, the power is no more. Evil, like other components of the lower self, is an illusion and powerless and without meaning, unless at the behest of man. This brings us to the source of a brief comprehension of the lower self. There are two major systems of the kingdom of the lower self, Maya and the ego. As the higher self instructs on the 12-step ladder leading to the education of a Muslim child, Moorish Holy Quran 23, in competition with the higher self. Maya has 6 steps and the ego has 6 steps, totaling 12 steps of the lower self, leading man away from the face of Allah. Islam. But I just
I
Islam.
would like to know what
Is-
that word mean, that except for
which one?
this,
My
behest, or something like that.
oh yeah, the behest.
Yeah,
And here.
I'm gonna look that up. Or is it in
Okay,
there?
yeah. No, it's not, because this is out the zooming in.
Well, I
Islam,
don't want to slow things down, but that's a good word. I need to look up though. That's all I was, Yeah,
Yeah, Islam. Give thanks.
Islam noble.
Islam, I was just gonna make the comparison between the 12-step ladder and the 12 disciples, and brother Jesus or Yahushua being number 13, Islam. So each one of the disciples characteristics represented different conscious levels all the way up until Yeshua to the highest. But if you look at the story, you can kind of see some of those. Okay, yeah, we know Judas, he was the snitch or whatever, and then Paul, he act like he didn't even know him. You know what I'm saying? But it's deeper insight into the conscious levels as it get all the way to 13. Islam. Which
Islam.
also Big Mama numbers. You pick by Big Mama, triple stage darkness. Islam.
Yeah, before he gets anointed, he goes through all those challenges and finds, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And also the 12 dealing with the 12 systems of the body as well.
Yeah, everything
12
12.
major commands, yeah. 1 and 2.
Like that. 12 planets, all that. 12 zodiacs, you know what I mean? Like 12 disciplines,
Yep.
Yeah, that's all facts, man. But truth breaks down into every level, geographically, theologically, it don't matter. It's gonna break down as the truth in all levels.
Mhm.
All levels.
And then that book he was just reading from right now, the context of the Maya was in the same context of the esoteric astrology book. So that was a good cross-referencing dealing with the Maya in that aspect, of the 6 steps.
The Maya, because the Maya is a part of the lower self as well as the ego, and balancing that out on the difference of them and how they function. Because in the chapter before that, it was going in about how Muslim and what it is, like that Maya energy of knowing how to recognize that, how to identify with the lower self in ways of like just knowing, okay, like how the Moor just said, like facing the disciples and each of them being not so much a friend or foe, but like a challenge for Yeshua, like to get to that, go through those stages to make sure, like, all right, boom, I helped this, did this one, boom. Now I'm active, the Christ conscious. Now I done did my work. Now I'm activated, killing people and moving on.
I don't know, man. I feel like yeah, you're right. That's why I said you know, instead of messing with the lower self and try to go tit for tat, you know, you just like, and because when you walk around with that energy, it's like it's you gotta know how to harness it. You know what I mean? It's like protection. When you really got made up in your mind what you gonna do and what you not gonna do, that shit, you know what I'm saying, rains out to the universe, bro.
And it's
You
the
feel me?
universe
So
is listening,
I,
ready to
yeah,
respond.
Islam. That's why I always tap into myself that way. Like, you know what? Like, that happened to me. This is what I'm gonna do. And then, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? But the universe kind of like constructs around that in whatever way it chooses, you know. You can't control the universe.
Wow. That's wow. Anybody else had any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say one more thing. What's it called? I feel like the lower self is like you said, just in the it's our instinctual, our instincts, you know, self-preservation. The higher self, you will never be able to get into your higher self or keep studying if you are not able to preserve yourself to this day, this very moment. And I feel like that's what helps us stay balanced. Like, you can't have one extreme without the other. So like, basically, when we come into this world, you know, before there was any of this civilization stuff, you know, you had to survive according to the, you know, nature's laws, and there's natural predators out here. Whether you want to be, you know, whether you want to call it the street or the jungle, you know, it's like we have to self-preserve to even uh get to where we're gonna go, or even to even first we gotta conquer our lower self to even move into our higher self. We gotta uh what's it called? Master survival to move into thinking as the most high, you know, state of mind.
Right. Yeah, man.
Hey, see, real
It's the
quick, let
last.
me. I just wanted to add, I wanted to read some more because I found the page where it tap into the Maya and the ego. All right, so the two necessities to know the self. Combine all educational systems in the world, and one would learn that only the knowledge of the self leads to wisdom. Its purpose is to know the man created by Allah as God, that he and his creator are one. This is not a philosophy, religious belief, or occultism. Knowledge of self is a pursuit, form of thought, activity, and love of self. Love is the giver and sustainer of all life. This includes man, the knowledge of himself. To have knowledge of his state is man's first duty to himself. There are hundreds of thousands of ways to see the souls of man. Um, Yet there is only one way to know his true self. The teaching of the ancient Kemetan adepts and the very first holy instructions of Noble Drew Ali are the same. Siantan Nauthi, meaning man, know thyself. Siantun Nothi, man, know thyself. Yet this basic law of fallen humanity, being humans, remains the last taught of all educations and the most mysteries to understand. The freedom to be like God is man's birthright and his divine heritage. The two inalienable gifts from the great God to man are the knowledge of self and the wisdom to be the self that man knows himself is truth. This wisdom of the self is the demarcation demarcation line between perfected man, the God man, quote unquote, and the fallen man, the fallen humanity. In the entire world, there are but two things. The one is truth as perfect man, where the other is no death, and the other is falsehood, the Maya called fallen humanity, where kings fear rules with the scepter of death. Um, I was gonna skip that. This sensory, blah blah blah. It's a lot to read on here, but I just wanted to give that part. That it's gonna go some more into some other stuff, and it goes into the lower self, and then some more know thyself. But yeah, that right there, the two necessities. So it's that Maya and the ego. You know what I'm saying? Two of the lower selves that we gotta to actually know. Like, okay, the where it said right here about the two, love is the greatest sustaining man includes knowledge of himself. To have knowledge of his state is man's first duty. So it's like he got to know, like he is God and that he is the creator of one. So, like knowing that he made you to have that lower self ego and to have that thought, knowing that, oh shit, got to get through this. I got to balance that out. You know what I'm saying? But Islam, I yield. I just wanted to share that though.
Islam. Thank you for that.
100%.
Islam, more. It's good to hear you too. You know what I'm saying, brother Kuku Khan. Islam.
Islam.
Jalissa Islam. I've been meaning to say that for a minute. It's fire conversation.
Islam.
Yeah, I'm tripping. I say Jalissa, but that looked like the more on her shit. Like I just looked at this little thing. It looked like Quasimodo on her iPhone picture.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it'd be glitching out like that on my phone too. Right now it
Yeah.
doesn't have an icon for her, but
Yeah, I'm tripping. I was like, wait, what am I seeing? Islam, brother Toledo, peace, Brandon Bay, peace, Rashad, Iman, Salim, peace to all the
Yep.
nobles and the Moabites. Islam, peace and love to everybody. Yeah,
peace and
You know,
love.
I
The
just
reading
got
reminded me of the arm, leg, arm, head, made in the image of the creator type of deal, knowing yourself,
right.
being
You know what I'm
divinely.
saying?
That's why when he read that, it made me think of when with the man knows not by being told. So we got take heed to that. Man knows not by being told. So
Man,
how can you be told something is the question.
bro, this
Somebody
shit is
can write you a letter. Somebody can verbally tell you some shit. I don't care how they tell you. You don't know by being told. Only way you know something is experiencing it. That's the only way you truly know something.
Wow.
So that's how you prove that we know nothing or we know very little, because we think we know a lot, but we haven't experienced it. It's just something another man told you.
Yep.
And that it sounds simple, but it's very deep. Like, what do you know? That's what I want you to share with me. What do you know? Not what they know. They know, and him and she and all that. Like, give me some experience. That's what we here for, to share those experiences with each other. When a man shares experience with you, you can know why, because you shared that experience with him, because he shared it with you.
right. And that talk of the Maya is the lower self. You know what I'm saying? Noble Drew Ali, when he was talking about lower self, he's talking about Maya. You know what I'm saying? Call these illusions, like it said right here, the great Buddha, Christ, and prophets call these illusions Maya. The world of dualities is never stable. The great Buddha, Christ, and prophets call these illusions Maya. So when you hear talking about the lower self, that's Maya, which is the ego. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man.
I think you can be perfect in certain ways. Like, you can be perfect in actions and intentions, but thoughts just, they like, they just come through. So it's like, that's a little different. But for you not to believe that that proves to a person that, you have levels that, you may never reach, because it's infinite levels. You can't put yourself in a box, bro. Everything is doable.
Mm-hmm.
To add to what you said, someone who feels like they know it all, or the man who thinks they know it all is in all reality that he's dead. Like he has no room for growth. So like for me, I don't know who exactly said it, but I think it was like Confucius who said, the man who admits he's a fool is one of the greatest geniuses, or something like that. I forgot who quoted, exactly said it, but that's how it goes.
And I put the book back up just to show y'all, Maya, even this author, he got in parentheses illusion next to it. Right? If everybody can see the screen, I know some people on their phone, they might not can see the screen. You might gotta scroll to the left, but
Yes.
these are ancient principles, Like I say, this not a Moorish author, but it's corresponding, right? Maya is illusion. This we're talking about Hindu religion, which is our people of the ancient world, Sanskrit speaking people, right? So this is not stuff that just came out of Noble Drew Ali head. This man was researching ancient philosophies and religions and brought it to the people in a compact way. He got one-liners that in another book, it's a whole paragraph of information. He just told, you know what I'm saying?
Well, the one-liner from the prophet is, he knows well his lower, he who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world that not is not, and the things that will pass away. And that's the most holy, the Moorish Holy Quran, like 3 and 15.
Now you see why I say that shit is protection. Lower self is protection. Because you know what other men may do to you. So I gotta do this because I don't want that lower shit to happen to me.
Hey man, add it's something my dad used to tell me back in the day growing up. He's like, and I think it pertains to that, and just said differently. He's like, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. So, like you can't get over on me because I lived through it.
Right.
I know how you're thinking. I know what you're trying to do. I know your schemes already because I lived through that.
Yeah. See, that's the dispensary, and based upon the facts, like in chapter 1, like man must learn by the things he suffers, and learn to love instead of hate. And like
Islam.
Man, it was a bar on that Dynasty album that said, just like what you're saying, the streets is watching, people is gossiping, people up in your face. What's the cause of it? I want to know. I think Jay-Z said something like, I got mental vision. I know what you're thinking. Something like that. But yeah, it's on that wave. And I think about like people that got nephews and daughters and sons. They see what they're going through. We all used to be 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years old. So we see kind of what they're going through. And we can navigate them. That's another example, a different little twist. But I know we're talking about within, navigating within, but as within, so without, it's the same principle. You know what I'm saying? So it's that wisdom that you develop, just living life. You know what I'm saying? And just not making the same mistakes. That's what it comes down to. And to not make
same, bro.
Yeah.
That's the definition to insanity. No, I think it's mostly about learning from your mistake. Like you can do the same thing, but it's like you jumped in the water, you can't swim, so your ass drowned.
Right.
You got somebody saves you. So now, next time you jump in, you gotta do something different than you did last time. You feel me? Yeah. Eventually, you're gonna learn. You be swimming lessons.
Well, see, it's the knowledge. It's wait, what did it say? It is the knowledge of the powers of one's illusionist lower self that transcends the boundaries of all earthly attachments, nationality, religious preference, civics, or personal choices. A close examination of nearly all authorities of religions and government miseducate their membership to the basic knowledge of the self. Although the statutes of the holy books are written constitutions for the people, however, The deliberated withholding of spiritual liberation is as much due to ignorance as malicious intent on the behalf of both church and state. Simply put, no one can lead anyone to somewhere they themselves have never been, especially the inward journey to the state of God, mercy, love, and right. This is why the true story of Adam and Eve is so important to the Moorish in the community of nations. Man exists as does his God exist in the omnipresent stillness of everywhere. Yet it is the greatness of human knowledge which has filled the cup of man's mind as he stands on the shores of the ocean. He want to quench his thirst. His cup is filled with an ego of the character he has made from his own desires. Still, he stands on the shores to the ocean of infinite wisdom, extending his cup full of self, pretending to receive its greatness. He does not realize his cup held by the hand of fear is the only thing between him and the sea. This is how man appears on the quest of self to know his creator. Everything he needs to save himself has already been within his being, but he is the last to know.
Yeah. And then when you started it off, that corresponded with the brother Salim read in the Quran just now, that same chapter. He's like, anybody that points the way and hasn't been there is just a pointer. And a block of wood could do the same thing, right? That's the one-liners, classic one-liners, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Wow. But yeah, man, it's good stuff right here, man. That's why we got holy books, you know. Let's set the foundation, man.
I just wanted to add that that what he just read kind of reminded me, like, you know, knowing yourself. I was at a gas station, and you know, I was doing the trucker thing, delivering goods, and then you know, it was like a highway in Hakumba where a lot of truckers pushed through, so everybody was just active. There was a lot of military members right there hauling tanks and war hogs, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like what are we doing? Like, what's it all for? Like, we could be all you know, hanging out at home with our families, growing our own food, but instead we're over here participating in something that kind of doesn't matter. But you know, I think part of it, like, you know, like in Narcotics Anonymous, they say the first thing you got to do is realize that you have a problem, and that's kind of where we're at. I think with humanity is we're starting to realize that we're just running in circles. But, you know, we got to do what we got to do to put food on the table. But you know, that's what I think too is you gain wisdom, you gain knowledge, you gain understanding, but you don't attach yourself to it. You know, like, it's all pointless too, in a way, at the end of the day. I just had to add that real quick.
Wow.
Islam.
Yeah, man. Anybody else got any?
It's because we all connected, brother Toledo. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is.
Yep. As above, so below, man. The war I got going inside me is also happening outside.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, man, this is fire, man. This the ministry of death. So this was a good comprehensive analysis on this.
You went it back to that point. What's call it, man? Not to like take it back too far, but when bro was talking, he was just like, "Yo, you got to experience." When Jerry was saying you got to experience some things, man, for real. That's exactly why I was trying to get this quiz together, because like even after doing the quiz, literally immediately afterwards, you know, I'm the one wrote it out. You feel me? And we in class on Sunday, and I'm like trying to answer the joint, bro. It's not off the top like that, you know. And I just got done doing it, you know what I mean? But it's just based on like, you got the laws in your face too. Like, I'm dealing with y'all. I'm comfortable with y'all. Like, the laws is a different type of story. You feel me? So we got to be prepared and be experienced when dealing with this stuff, man, and just spread it up.
Yeah, it's just like my brother, man. He would always tell me when I was like in my knucklehead stage, he's like, man, you think your friends are gonna matter? You're not even gonna, talk to any of your friends like in a couple years and this and that. But for me, it was just in one year and out the other. Now that I'm older, I'm like, damn, you were right about everything. None of that mattered, and I treated it like it was the
Right.
whole world. But I had to go through it. I had to learn it the hard way. Nothing he said or did could show me. I had to go see it for myself.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, man. Speaking of the test, since everybody didn't really get it to today, maybe by Friday, if everybody can just send me a picture in a DM. Once again, just show integrity. If you don't know it, you don't know it. Just put what you know. Take a picture, send it in, and then we'll evaluate it. Islam. And then we'll evaluate it. It's about being honest with yourself. Do you know it or you don't, right? So just like any other curriculum, you want to get competent. And yeah, so that's that. Any other thoughts before we close out here?
Which quiz is it?
You didn't get an email from me?
Oh, I'll look. I probably did.
If you didn't, just let me know. Whoever didn't get the competency test that Brother Imani compiled, just let me know, and I'll get it emailed out.
I want to tell Brother Imani, yeah, I appreciate that test because I noticed it was a question from Outmore's Tactical. At first I thought it was just random questions and stuff like that. So I appreciate that, because as Khalifa Sadi, man, we've been together for a few years, and we had new members come through and different things that's happened, and we experienced different things, so I kind of thought it was the same thing, but I'm always willing to view the other side, man. So yeah, I appreciate that test. When I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I recognize those questions. So Islam, Noble.
Yeah, Islam.
Islam, I got you, man. We all in this together, man, for real. Like, I'm trying to get it right. I'm trying to get my understanding best so I can bring it to my people, you know what I'm saying? So the better I can be, I'm trying to be better, my best for y'all. Y'all been spitting that fire today. Everybody going in, so I appreciate y'all for real, man.
Islam, man, that's beautiful.
If I could get a email of the test, that'd be pretty tight. I went to look. I don't think I got an email for the test to go over it.
Everybody that needs a test, can they just DM me, shoot me a message in my DM, and then I'll get that to everybody. Just DM me tonight or right now, and when we get off, I'll have that to y'all in about 30 minutes or something like that.
I think I noticed one little problem with. I think it was what letter was that? A T. I think it was a T added. Because I think it was question number 7, if I remember correctly. Question number 7. Okay. So when I didn't know what it was, but I looked it up. I researched it like crazy too. I was like, wait a minute, and then I asked Brother Anur, so came together. I think it's a T on there that don't supposed to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my fault, Noble. It was definitely based on that question, like right before that one, and it went OD on the acronym.
Right. Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, no, me, that just Libra, man. I overthink. So I was like, I was really thinking like, damn, I don't know what this is like. And I still didn't know what it was. I think it was like Article 10 of that internet. Yeah, I think it was that. So no, but either way it goes,
you
I
overthink
didn't know
because we
the
got
answer.
to now.
I was like, let me look this up. And then so I still want to know the answer though. I still don't even know it.
Okay. Islam. Jalissa said she wants to have a board meeting tomorrow around 6 or 7. Let's see. Maybe I don't think. Let's see, maybe Friday. What about Friday before the Zoom? That'd be better for me. Friday around 6. Okay. Are most of the board members? I think everybody except for Nuna's on here. Is everybody, all board members are be available tomorrow? 7, 6. Does that work? Yay. Board members?
Y'all want to do it in what, Friday? You said?
Yeah.
Or which day? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm yay on either day. Yes, I'm yay.
Friday, let's do 7. That'll give me time, make sure I'm back. Friday 7 works for me.
Yeah, that works better for me. I'm busy around that time. I'll probably still be working.
Friday 7, okay. Who else?
When I get off of work, you know what I mean? I might just be at work jumping in like I just did right now. So yeah. So Friday. It's cool.
All right. Brandon Bay, that work for you? Tomorrow at 7?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. So Friday at 7, board meeting, board member meeting. Anybody else have any thoughts in general before we close out?
The questions. You talking about the Morris tactical questions?
Yeah. Did you get an email today?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
All right.
Yeah, that's live. Alrighty.
Yeah, there was 2 files. One file that got sent out. I forwarded it to everybody that was in the Zoom email, but like there's 2 files on there. One file won't open up because that's got the answer on it. So the file that opens up, that's the actual test.
Yeah, I had a problem with that. But the one you sent in into the Instagram, that's the ones I got.
Yeah. It's essentially the same one. Yeah, Rashad L, just send me a DM saying the same thing you're saying now in the chat so I can just hit everybody at one time. I can just go with my DM and just blast it out. So once again, everybody that didn't get it, just tell me that in the DM. Once we shut down. But any other, one more round for last thoughts? Before we close out, questions, concerns?
All is well, no thoughts over here, man. Appreciate the build and the meeting.
Wow.
I'll just say not to fear death, man, because like it's like being scared of going to sleep. You know, the nothingness is beautiful. I think ego is what wants to feel its existence, and higher self just is. That's all.
I'm gonna add to that. You know, in the what's it called? In the Mexica way of looking at things, Quetzalcoatl is the higher self, and Xoloitzcuintli is the lower self. And it says that Xoloitzcuintli was scared of dying, so he actually ran away during the times of sacrifice for the new, beginning. And that's why, for us, that's where we get the what's it called? The swastika. His body was actually the swastika of him running away to preserve his own self. But eventually, you can't run forever, from death, because death is only a part of life, and it ends up catching up to him.
So when you said that, my mind goes to like people that identify as cholos. Cholos, are they in their lower self activity?
Pretty much. The reason why that came to be was because those dogs were looked at as, once it fell, they call them cholos for they were, people on the run. Like they were still trying to survive and keep their heritage as it pertains to like not being Christianized. So like the paño, now, that was another representation of the turban, the baggy pants and the long socks were like the, what's it called? The huaraches and what are they called? I forget what they're called but the Apaches call them something else. But basically, yeah, it was the garments that they wore in times of war, and the reason why they shaved their head was because, we've been in an age of warfare since it happened, since the conquest itself.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say too, though. Christianity and Islam is the same religion. It's based on the post I just posted, but like Christianity and religion, and and Islam is really the same religion, but
Yes.
it's Coptic, right? But then the Christianity that's practiced today, or for hundreds of years, is Constantinian. That's what
Yep.
they really doing, and they hiding behind the Christian, word. So
Well,
it's like
that's basically what I'm, trying to get at.
right,
Is like,
right, yeah, right. That's why I was like, yeah, exactly. It's
so for what Mafiel said, I mean, it is 100% true. We've been living in our lower self because the society is based in their lower selves. Like, we had to survive, so we, the reason why people would call themselves cholo, like it wasn't that we would call ourselves cholo. It was like other people that were colonized would call the people who were trying to, take pride in their old way of life and continue those traditions. They called them cholos because they were looked at as, stray dogs that were always on the run. Because like once the empire fell, those dogs were on the street just like us. You know what I mean? We were in the empires and the dogs were in the empires. And that's what I'm it has multiple meanings. For example, like that's our dog, like I was saying, our lower self is our animalistic instincts just to survive to the next day. But once we come into, conquering that, and now we're living for our higher self, it's like that's what they're trying to keep us from, living in our higher self. And in the esoteric, the Mexica interpretation, they would call that Quetzalcoatl, which was, Quetzalcoatl is not a person. It's just a state of mind, of being. That's why he taught the first stage, Seacat, he taught that, we're all equal. It's just, I know from experience, learn from my experience, you are my brother and my sister. Follow me and you'll get somewhere.
I've heard somebody say too that Anubis is a cholo dog.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like in reality, it's the same thing in a different language of interpretation. Like they're if you really look at it, it's the same. They just speak different. Just like
that's beautiful. That's what I was saying. Like truth break down in like every form, in any level you could think of, language to whatever, it's gonna still break down as the truth. You know what I mean? That's why it's so beautiful, bro. But I like how you said that, because when you said that, I immediately thought higher self, lower self. Like that's more science right there.
Exactly. Anubis as well. Like if you look at, I haven't read as much literature on that, but I do have a book on Osiris and him, and it says it says itself. He's the the guardian of the underworld. And that's what Cholo, Cholo Squingley did. He guided Seacat through the underworld, and he successfully got him out of darkness. Dogs can see in the dark. We can't until we tap into those instincts, and like you said, our sixth sense. A lot of us don't have lost tune with nature.
What Blaze was saying too about Christianity and Islam being the same thing. That's why I appreciate, like my brother was saying something about Toledo, how back when it was under Moorish rule, all the Christians, the Muslims and the Jews all got along right there until the Crusades took place. And that's what I looked up with the I saw that the translation of Toledo back when it was Al-Andalus, it was Tula y Tula. So yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Tula.
where I got that from.
That's over there in the south where, one of the first temples of Seacat was erected.
Oh, that's crazy. And that was happening in Spain, so.
Well, that, like, everything that everybody's inputting is true. Like, at the end of the day, we were all one, and it's just through different interpretations of the the language barriers itself is like, we have different tongues now, even to this day.
Yeah. Yep. That's why the Moors is the great unifiers. We're the unifier. We can go to any civilization and nationality of people today and let them know how they connected to this movement.
Yes, sir.
It's about their heart and not being egotistic or whatever, to submit to that truth and just want to link up. You know what I mean? But that's why it's good to know the information. No, that's why the law and history go together, because we coming from a historical aspect that most people don't know. Most people don't know this history that we've been talking about this last 30 minutes. You know what I mean? The common man. So,
that's why I think it's good to have the lower self in check too, because when you go to a place that's kind of, polluted, how they say Yahshua was hanging out with the prostitutes and, the criminals, we could vibe there too. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know what's up with that.
Right. Bring light over there. Shed some light in that.
Exactly. Yep. The master, won't let it get to him. He could kick it with the demons and not be affected.
Yeah.
Islam, it's also a chapter, I forget which chapter it was, but it speaks on, it says, why art thou erect? And it compares man's to animal. Islam, it compares man to animal, and it challenges you to question why you're different, or we are different than the animals. From my study, I understand the animals to be expressions of our lower self. Islam, it's like a fox is always sly, but you have the choice of being devious or going to a higher vibration. Islam, as opposed to that animal who's only has a fixed conscious level. So if Allah has blessed you with more Islam, you must utilize it, must vibrate Islam and climb that ladder.
Wow.
Islam.
All right, that's a beautiful bill tonight. Well, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and close out on that note. And this is a beautiful day of Mercury. We've been definitely communicating, right? That's the attributes of Mercury, communication. And we communicated well the aspects of death, what it's about, and amongst other things. So this is a beautiful bill. Love y'all, appreciate y'all, and hopefully everybody have a beautiful rest of their night. And I'll see everybody on Friday at 8 o'clock Cali time. We got a board meeting at 7. Yeah, peace and love to all.
Peace and love, Noble.
Peace and love, more.
Islam, peace and love.
Peace and love. Islam.
Peace and love.
Where you been at?
I just got home.
Seriously.